Hello and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Sariel and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto and my pronouns are he, him. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 91, the penultimate episode, Boran.
I am so... I just realized that it's going to be so weird to say from Diocles to Yazdegerd III when we are actually doing Yazdegerd III. But okay.
Well, Sarah, that's next week.
Yep,
Exactly
I'm fine. I'm
week.
normal about it. I'm fine. I'm okay.
You get to find out what this has all been building up to. At last, we get to the end of history, Yazdegerd III. Nothing else happened after him. That's it. The end.
Absolutely.
End of story.
Just,
So we have Boran today. Serial, what are your expectations? Because Boran is the sister of Azarmidocht. And if we remember last time, Azarmidocht was sort of like the seductive sister who lures men into her chambers to murder them, while Boran was the good and pious woman who was doing a great job for the crown and everything. So how do you expect her to go? How do you expect her reign to be? Also, she's had 2 reigns. We're going to look at her first and second reign. She's already been deposed once, and now she's back. Do you think that'll help her in ruling the empire? Or do you think that, well, she's already failed once. How can she succeed the second time?
I mean, I don't know how many years we have left for these 2 episodes.
I will tell you, just so you know, we have 19 years left.
Okay. So, I guess she could do well. She didn't get a chance before, but, I also think that the patriarchal society is going to get in her way very much. So I don't know how much of it will be her failing personally and how much it will be, people not letting her rule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious where Yazdegerd III is going to come in.
Yeah, he hasn't been mentioned so far.
Exactly.
So,
where does he come from?
We'll see.
Where is he?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think that she's gonna do better than I expect. But we will see. I don't expect much. I think we're still in a really delicate period. And so anyone who assumes the throne basically has to have made peace with the fact that they will be dead soon.
Yes. And yet we only have 2 rulers left and 18 years, Serial. So something must clearly change. We'll find out. Is it today or is it next time?
I guess let's get to it and see. Yeah,
very well.
Let's do it.
So I'll give you a brief recap of what happened in the past episodes, because we actually have to go a bit further back before Azarmidocht to talk about Boran, because, as we mentioned, she has 2 reigns. So where does she come in? Well, she comes in right after Ardashir III and Sharbaraz. So by the time she becomes queen, the empire has been ruled by a child king for a couple years. He was overthrown by Sharbaraz, who is this great war hero who tried to establish a new dynasty in the empire, but as we remember, he was murdered by his bodyguards, and the head of the bodyguards puts Boran on the throne and makes her Queen of Queens. So this is the first time we've had a woman in the Sassanid Empire. So chronologically in our episodes we covered Azarmidocht first, but Boran is the first Sassanid woman and the second woman to rule Iran in all time. I said there were only 3 last time. I found out there was a 4th one, but she doesn't rule Persia, so I still count myself correct.
Okay, interesting.
She rules a bit of northern Iran at some point in the Middle Ages, but hey.
Okay. But not what we are considering the Persian Empire.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right. Sort of falls out of our categories. But anyway, okay, let's get into Boran and who is she, what is her life. So Boran, as most people we've covered so far, is another daughter of Khosrow II. And she was born roughly in the same period as Azarmidocht. Although, unlike Azarmidocht, she was the daughter of Maria, who was the possible Roman princess or just a Roman noblewoman, while Azarmidokht was the daughter of Shirin, the two rival queens from a while ago. So if you remember, according to some versions of the story, Shirin had Maria murdered, or at the very least had Maria's son, Kavad Shirowe, sidelined in favor of her own son to succeed the throne. So there's rivalry between these two sides of the family, which also, I assume, is why Boran was put on the throne after Azarmidokht, because maybe they weren't too close, or maybe they didn't like each other that much. So working off that rivalry would make sure that one doesn't follow the policies of the other. And, well, like with her sister, she was only chosen to succeed because Kavad II had killed all viable heirs, so the only one available were children or women. As usual, last choice. But this doesn't mean that this was her first brush with power, because it looks like she was the wife of her full brother Kavad II, Kavad Shirowe, the one who had done the purge. So she was already queen, but queen consort, and now she has become queen regnant. So, okay. Boran was made queen after the murder of Shabraz a couple of episodes ago, when things were sort of stable-ish. So this is before the explosion of regional rulers, but that doesn't mean things are going great. It's still a very unstable situation. Because if you remember, Shabraz had been killed by a conspiracy of nobles, and though we have no sources claiming that she was involved, these nobles seem to have been pulling the strings. In particular, Farouk Hormizd, remember the Ispabudan noble who will later try to marry Azarmidokht and be murdered for it, was given control of the government. So this is sort of giving you some context on why Azarmidokht didn't want to make him prime minister, because he was the prime minister of her sister beforehand. So maybe she saw that when Boran was eventually overthrown, maybe this guy wasn't as good at governing as he thought he was. There is also an alternative view where Boran was actually already in charge of the empire before Shabraz took the throne, and she may have been put forward by the Ispabudan family as the regent for baby Ardashir III, and maybe internoble fighting was another cause for Shabraz's usurpation. So when she comes to the throne, she may have been sort of a half-regent for her nephew Ardashir III, or son Ardashir III, depending on what you consider. But in the end, after Shabraz, she's placed on the throne by a bunch of concerned nobles. And well, Serial, again, much like Azarmidokht, what do you think is the core of Boran's legitimacy?
Well, wasn't she the sister of the previous queen?
Yes.
Right.
This is before Azarmidokht is queen, in general. She's preceding her.
Right, because she came first and then... Well...
That's right. She came first and after.
That's what I mean, that, like, Azarmidokht not only became queen herself, but it was also the wife of a king before, right?
Azarmidokht was... We don't know of any of her marriages, to be fair.
Okay. Because wasn't she the one that this guy tried to marry and then he pathetically died?
Yes, that's
and
right.
he wanted to marry her, but that's when she was already in power.
That's true, yes.
Right, so not the other way around. I was like, oh, maybe... I think I'm confusing her with someone else. I can't remember which dynasty they trace back to what.
Well, if anything, Boran is more legitimate than Azarmidokht, and maybe that's why she was the first choice, because Boran is A, the daughter of Khosrow II, so the daughter of the good old king when things were going well and we weren't in a 1,000-side civil war, so bonus points. Then she was also the wife of Kavad II, her brother. So she is the wife of one king, the daughter of another king, and maybe she was even the mother of Ardashir III. The sources don't tell us, but it was the son of her husband, so maybe, could be. So she is closely tied to all the royals who are in charge, but she's trying to draw her legitimacy as much as possible from Khosrow II, because that's when things were actually going well. So what she tries to do is she copies his crown and proclaims that she would rule with justice. And on the coins she minted, she tried to emphasize the fact that she was restoring the Sassanid dynasty after the interlude of Shabraz, who was from a separate dynasty trying to make his own thing. So on the coin she minted, she writes Boran, restorer of the race of gods. To show that the Sassanid dynasty is divinely appointed, unlike all the other nobles who are trying to claim the empire just because they can. She is in charge because heaven wills it. And so, don't overthrow me, please. But to make sure that she would be stable and in control of the throne, we have the main event of her first reign, which is an embassy she sent to the Roman Emperor Heraclius, led by several members of the Iranian church to conclude a final peace between the new empires, and probably to ensure the neutrality of the Romans. Also, the fact that Boran was supposedly a granddaughter of the Emperor Maurice may have helped, because she was half Roman. Maybe that counts, hey?
Sure, why not? We will just pretend. Yeah, I'll take whatever.
It's also important to point out that in this peace treaty, she's sending Iranian Christians as her emissaries to counteract the Roman propaganda of the last Great War, that it was a religious conflict. But she's actually saying, no, it wasn't a religious war. Look at all these Christians. They're well treated and respected enough by me to allow them to negotiate peace with you people. So, hooray. And here we get a few options for what happened, because according to some sources, she paid for Roman neutrality by returning to the 591 borders that Khosrow II had started with, so the really humiliating ones that gave away most of Armenia and a bunch of land in Mesopotamia and just reduced the empire as much as it had been reduced thus far. But the other alternative is that, well, she didn't do that. She just confirmed the previous peace treaty that Shahbaz had made, getting back some land in Mesopotamia, giving up a few strongholds in Armenia, but mostly, essentially, ending the war victoriously. Well, why believe two options? Well, option one of the giving up land is say that she was in such a desperate position, she was so unstable when she got to the throne, that she needed to make serious concessions to avoid the Romans just popping up. Because you remember that the Romans still had Nicetas, the son and heir of Shahbaz, in their control. So the Romans had a clear justification for war to just pop into Ctesiphon and say, no, Nicetas is in charge now. But with these concessions, Boran is saying, hey, forget about Nicetas. We both don't care about him. Just allow everything to return to normal. As a counter to this option, we have the fact that, well, the nobles are already fidgety. How long did Boran expect to last if she's just giving away land that had been already secured by a peace treaty? Like, she'd be immediately overthrown. Did she really think this would work out? So what do you think, Sarah? What do you think is most likely? Do you think that Boran just said, you know what, whatever. For peace, I'll just give up all these lands. Sure, it'll look bad. Sure, the nobles will hate me, but that's fair enough. Or did she say, no, we'll just conclude a normal peace, and yeah, maybe the Romans might be tempted to invade in favor of Nicetas, but honestly, the Romans are as exhausted as we are from the end of the Great War. They're not going to do anything that intense.
Well, like, how much does she care about the nobles? Like, do any of them support her? Are all of them, like, trying to get her off the throne? Like, how is that going?
Well, the Espopadon family of nobles has put her on the throne, but there are other nobles, like the family of Shahbaraz, that, well, she's come to the throne after overthrowing a member of their dynasty, so they'll be a bit more resistant to her rule. And then, presumably, all the other nobles are just waiting to see what happens, because she is the third ruler in the matter of 2 months. Who knows how this is going to end?
Like, the decision is fully, do we value more what the nobles think or what the empire at large thinks?
Yeah. Basically, do you think she was more scared of the Romans or more scared of the nobles?
Probably more scared of the nobles. Because you said that...
I tend to agree, yes.
Yeah, because the nobles are right there and they can just choose to depose her, while the Romans probably won't attack, and if they do, like, there's things we can do about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact is that I don't think the Romans would push this.
Yep.
Because the Romans have one army left. We have one army left.
Yeah.
do we really want to do this again?
Yeah,
We just ended this war at great cost to everyone.
Exactly.
Why
So I'm
prolong this? Like, yes, the Romans could have a Christian emperor on the throne of Iran. I'm sure they'd love that. But I don't think they're strong enough to attempt this sort of thing at this point. So I'm more convinced that Boran got extra assurances for the Romans. According to some sources, she returned the relic of the true cross to the Romans to show goodwill. I think it's just so much better for the Romans to just take the easy win and say, you know what, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years, we'll come back when we're strong again and put Nicetas on the throne and reform the empire. But for now, they're not strong enough. They can't afford to essentially extend the war more than what it is. But yeah, it's also possible that Boran made other small concessions, like, I don't know, more religious freedom for the Christians in the empire, or who knows, maybe a royal marriage of some sort. But we don't know because this will all soon become irrelevant, as we'll find out in this and the next episode.
Yeah.
In any case, as we saw in Shapur the 5th's episode, she was not appreciated by the nobility, who later deposed her, but importantly did not kill her. And this might, again, be a hint that, oh, maybe she did actually fear the Romans more and made the wrong choice. Who knows?
Yeah.
Again, this is unclear. Make up your own minds. But once Boran herself was deposed, we got 2 episodes ago, Shapur the 5th, her cousin, was put on the throne, and this absolutely destroyed imperial legitimacy. This is when the empire splinters, it's all a mess. But a weird thing that we notice is that Farrukh Hormizd was made chief minister of Shapur the 5th. But he was already the chief minister of Boran, so what's going on here? Why was there a coup and the prime minister just stays in power? Like, who did this coup then? Did he just coup himself? What was he doing?
Yeah, exactly. Typically you do a coup to change who's in power, so I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have the same regent? Like, what's going on? So it's possible that the sources are just confusing the reign of Boran with the reign of Azarmidokht, where Farrukh Hormizd has considerable influence in both. So maybe the sources are just saying, oh yeah, it was a woman and he was the sort of regent.
Women?
So,
certainly not. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. No. There's just clearly one woman and they acted exactly the same.
Yep.
So that's possibly it. Or it might be that Boran tried to preempt her sister and became more rebellious and independent. So she was trying to say, no, actually, but I'm queen. I'm the queen. Let me make decisions. And Farrukh Hormizd thought, no, we're not having any of this. You're replaced. Let's put another puppet in charge. So maybe that happened. Overall, seeing the rivalry between noble houses and the limited legitimacy of Shapur V, it's more likely that there was a power struggle among the nobles that ended up with the brief ousting of Farrukh Hormizd's faction. So maybe Farrukh Hormizd was supporting the queens, and somebody else briefly interrupted this and put Shapur on the throne, and then eventually Farrukh Hormizd managed to muscle his way back onto the throne. So then we get to our previous episodes with Shapur being replaced by Azarmidokht, and later Azarmidokht killed Farrukh Hormizd.
Yep.
This then resulted in his son Rostam marching on Ctesiphon, killing the queen, or just blinding her, and then she died later. And then he appointed Boran back to her previous place. At this point, reciprocally, Boran decided to appoint Rostam as her chief minister because what is she going to do? Her sister was murdered for this, and he has an army outside of Ctesiphon. I mean, honestly, it's nice enough that he didn't make himself king at this point. So, fine. It's very sad. She's just like, I don't know, man. Whatever. You have the pointy things. I'll do whatever you say. According to one of the historians, she invited Rostam, and I quote, to manage the affairs of the Persians, whose weakness and decline she complained about to him.
Can you complain if it's like kind of your fault? I mean, not your fault, but like, you know, you are in charge, so shouldn't you be the one who's like taking care of that weakness and decline? I find it a bit, you know.
She's basically saying, you know what, I give up. I tried once. You do whatever, my dude. I'll be the queen. I'll be your puppet. I don't care. Just fix this, please.
I mean, to be fair, I also would do that because everything is on
It's
fire
entirely
and I'm
reasonable.
tired.
Yeah. And, you know, her sister Azadamidocht had tried to do the whole independent queen ruling, and she'd gotten blinded and or killed for it, so
Yeah.
Boran is just saying, you know what, whatever. Just fix it, please.
Yeah. Okay. I guess.
According to Altabari, she tried to stabilize the empire by dispensing justice, rebuilding infrastructure, reducing taxes, and minting new coins.
Nice.
She also tried to build up her legitimacy in sort of a different way. Because, Cyril, if you're a male king, what is an easy, quick way to build legitimacy?
You marry into the family, right?
Yes, but what is something that you can do once you are on the throne?
Well, you get an heir.
True, you can get an heir, but we don't have any heirs at the moment. That's going to take a while. At least 16 years.
Then you, military prowess?
Correct. So if you were a male king, you would lead a campaign and, hooray, conquer some weak people on the border and say, hooray, look at me, I've saved the empire. Trust me, please don't fall apart. But Boran's a woman, so she can't lead armies. That's not a thing she can do.
Like, just by law?
Tradition doesn't allow her to.
I see. That's why I was confused, because I'm like, why would this be a male thing to do? Like, it feels to me like a kingly thing to do, you know?
It is a kingly thing to do, but according to tradition, she can't do it. Like, she's trying to be the perfect queen and respect tradition and no, please don't execute me just because I'm a woman. I promise I'm not going to destroy every tradition.
I guess.
So,
this is painful.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Queen Elizabeth I did as well. She was like, hey, no, trust me, I'm a woman, but
one of the guys.
I'm not going to lead armies in battle. I'll just make good speeches and stuff.
I see. I'll leave the battling to the guys because that's what men do, right?
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, lacking military legitimacy, what other types of legitimacy do you think Boran could get?
Well, diplomatic legitimacy? By, like, talking with people?
Yeah, that's part of what she's doing. She's going to go on a big PR tour of the Empire and show, hey, look at me. I'm actually doing something proper. I am the Queen of Queens, and I actually deserve to be in this place.
Yeah, sounds good.
So what she did is she built a bunch of new fire temples across the empire to consolidate her position at the head of the Zoroastrian religion, but also at the same time distance herself from rumors of Christianity due to her mother and friendship with Rome. Because her mother was a Roman and she was friendly with Rome, so let's tell everybody, no, I promise I'm not a Roman agent. I'm actually as Zoroastrian as the rest of you. Please love me.
Look, building temples and stuff, yeah. Okay.
As a part of this policy, it looks like she tried to diminish the importance of martial valor and consequently of the ambitious generals that had been tearing the empire apart.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If she's not allowed to do war, then I would also push towards, like, decreasing the value of that. You know? I don't know if out of pettiness,
trying
but...
to say, hey, everything is good.
If you're stopping it, making it something that people, like, measure value by, then, like, the fact that she's not running campaigns is not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. So she's trying to make everything stable, saying, no, we're going back to the good old days. I'm a good queen. Everything is going to be fine. Look, Ahura Mazda favors me. Everything will be good.
Yeah.
But it looks like, despite all this, Boran had very little power.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
like really barely anything.
Makes sense.
Because one Arabic source states that Rostam, her basic regent, asked her to give him absolute power for 10 years. And then after the end of those 10 years, he'd give it back, I promise.
Are
It'll
you
be
sure?
Fine. I'll give it to the legitimate heir. If any legitimate heir is going to be alive at the end of this, I'll give power back to them.
This is a trap.
And
clearly.
Well, Boran said, I mean, you're the guy with all the swords and you're surrounding me, so sure, I guess, do whatever.
It's either give it to you willingly or getting killed and you taking it, so I guess.
Yeah, I saw what happened to my sister who said no to your father, so Yeah, I guess I like living. I'll go for that.
Yeah, can you really blame her? But also that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck a lot. It's not good. And yeah, her only remaining role was basically as a mediator between different noble factions, where if two people were disagreeing, she could say, no, actually, I think you're right, or no, actually, I think you're right.
I see.
So, meh. But at this point, we hear rumblings from Arabia.
Oh.
Because, Cyril, you remember that
this has been quiet too long, I guess.
Yes. We had Yemen
Mm-hmm.
and essentially the southern coast of the Persian Gulf. Right? And how do you think those places are doing?
I mean, everything
After
was
the whole
terrible,
chaos in
so
the
I don't
empire.
know. Yeah, I don't know why it would be any different there. If I didn't like to be under the Persian Empire, I'd try to revolt.
Yeah, well, Cyril, the problem is we haven't heard anything back from them since Khosrow II died.
Oh.
And it's been 4 years, and we haven't received any news. That's ominous. I sure hope nothing happened to them.
I feel like someone took over. Right?
Possibly.
Okay, so who was it? Which one?
Well, we'll find out eventually.
Oh, not now? So you're telling me this, and then you're like, oh, just keep it in mind.
I'll give you hints in a moment.
Okay.
We'll definitely find out next episode, but I'll give you hints in a moment. Because it looks like the people of Arabia were becoming more ambitious in their raids into the empire. Because, as we've seen, due to the whole civil war, there were no armies watching the border. All of them were just pointed at Ctesiphon, saying, no, my pet king is in charge. No, my pet king is in charge. And so the Arabs are just raiding deeper and deeper into Mesopotamia.
Because they can, yeah.
Things actually get so bad that they start to defeat a few Persian armies on the Mesopotamian border. They take down a few garrisons.
Oh, heck.
And this worries Rostam, the regent, because he thinks, okay, this is getting a bit much. If they threaten Ctesiphon, then they threaten my power, and how legitimate can you be if you just let people raid into the empire?
Yep.
So Rostam takes up a large force. He takes the army he had pointed at Ctesiphon and decides to meet this Arabian force at a great crossing of the Euphrates. And this will be called the Battle of the Bridge.
Oh.
Because there, Rostam meets a contingent of 10,000 Arabs. The fighting is long and hard, but at long last, Rostam, the great regent, the savior of all, manages to decisively defeat the invading force.
Okay.
And surely we will hear nothing from them again.
Surely.
And the raids stop for a little bit.
Okay. So it went well.
Now, full disclosure, this battle may have happened a couple years afterwards, but I thought it'd be nice to mention it here. The sources are unclear. There we go.
Okay.
But the problem is that Boran would not get to enjoy this victory very much, because there was an alliance between noble factions that broke down, and a rebellion broke out against Rostam, the regent's control. And eventually, Boran herself was killed in June 632 by the leader of the pro-Sassanid faction, who had her strangled.
Oh no.
Although other sources, including Al-Tabari, claim that she was simply deposed, and she later was a mediator for the succession of her heir, Yazdegerd III.
Oh.
Who we'll cover next time.
So, wait, so is Yazdegerd III her son?
Yazdegerd III is... Let me double check.
Or am I not allowed to know yet? I know that I could, look this up at any moment, but it's more fun if I don't.
So Yazdegerd III is definitely her nephew.
I see.
Don't know if he's her son as well, because weird family trees.
No,
he is just her nephew.
Okay.
Which may also have been a son of Azarmidocht. It's unclear. I mean, the sources don't tell us who the mother is, because who cares about the women, right?
Yep.
So he may be a son of Azarmidocht, or he may just be a son of a brother of Azarmidocht. So just a nephew. But we'll see why he's chosen to come to the throne. Why him? He's not been mentioned at all. This is the first time he's mentioned. We'll find out how things go.
Okay.
But yeah, so Boran either strangled to death or helped in the mediation to the new succession. So we get to pick whatever our favorite is. So that's the end, Serial. What did you think of Boran?
I mean, it went about as well as I expected it to go, right? Like, she doesn't get to do much, both because the empire is dwindling and burning away, just slowly collapsing into, well, not even slowly collapsing, just, it's been, there's been more like rapid collapsing in the past. Right now, it's more like the ruins, and you're like, well, what do we do with this?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 successions in the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
9 successions, pardon me.
So,
So, yes, it's been a while.
So partly because of that, because she couldn't have done much. And also partly because of what I expected of just like massive misogyny and a patriarchal society and set of rules. So like, yes, if she had been a man ruling, there's also not much she could have done. Mm-hmm. She could do even less because she was a woman ruling. And then the regent like came along and was like, actually, I'm not going to declare myself king, because this will like bring a whole new set of issues and will put my life more at risk. But essentially, I am gonna be king. You're just going to be my shield while I do what I want to do, because I have the guns.
Official regent.
I have
for
the
10
weapons.
years.
So
yeah.
So that went about how I expected it to go.
Bit depressing.
Yeah. Is there anything... I know we're stopping at Yazdegerd III, even though technically you could consider that the Persian Empire continues, right? So...
I mean, we're going to end for some reason. We'll discuss that
Exactly.
time,
So I'm like, I assume that the empire actually falls, but like how much...
Or it's transformed so much that the Middle Ages start and it becomes a new thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, how much is left? Because you could make the argument that like we could continue with the show. You did choose to stop here for a reason. So I'm like, how destroyed is it going to be? Because, for example, having for reference the Roman Empire, which is like the one I know more about.
Right.
It certainly falls at some point, but then people keep calling themselves the Holy Roman Empire for a long while. And then it's up to historians to be like, well, okay, what do you consider part of like the OG Roman Empire? And then, the East and the West, and then like how that evolves.
I mean, even just on our side, like the difference between the Parthian and the Sassanid Empire
exactly,
is mainly the dynasty changes and then the system becomes different.
Yeah.
But, it didn't collapse and then reform. It just shifted.
So I'm curious to see how much this will collapse and how much it will continue. Because if it collapses entirely, then there's no reason to continue calling it the Persian Empire.
Fair enough, yeah.
Because it's just, it ends. And of course the people still live in that region, but if something entirely different starts, then, it's something different.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll find out. Well, first of all, just to know, do you actually know how this ends, what happens at the end here, or are you in the dark about it?
Oh, I don't know anything.
Because
I know nothing.
There. Okay,
yeah,
that'll be exciting for you. Good, exciting times to see how it all ends. Next episode already. We're basically there.
Exactly. Like what I said, I could have looked this up anytime. I have the information
yes, sure.
at my fingertips, and yet I am planning on using my momentary ignorance for entertainment. So
exactly,
I am purposefully waiting to be surprised. So yeah.
Well then, just for hindsight purposes, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the Empire will how, and do you think it collapses if it does? Or do you think that a new dynasty will take control, like Rostam will take control and change the Empire in a new way? Or a third secret thing?
Well, like, that's what I was asking, because I'm like, how much is it going to crumble? Because yes, we're stopping the show here, so I expect it to be more of a change than we have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, yes, we've seen the Empire change and evolve and go through different dynasties, and like you said, like, there's a lot of things that are different, but we could more or less justify that it is still the same Empire. So there has to be something more that happens now, but I also know that we could continue the podcast if we wanted to. So there must be something after.
Iran continues to exist.
Yeah. So I'm trying to like, do we have to change the name of the podcast? if we continue? Or or is it still okay and it's just not everything is gone, it's just different? New dynasty and new rules.
If you had to bet on which of the two it is, what would you say? Continue or collapse? Based on how things have been going so far. I mean,
Oh god.
you've seen how Boran ends.
I think
If you had to say at the end of Yazdegerd III, will there be a new world that has restarted, or do you think the Empire will have been gone entirely and something else has to jump in its place?
like what something else? Just a kingdom that we're deciding to
Well-
call the Persian Empire?
I mean, we've had empires before that own Iran but aren't a Persian empire. Like the Seleucids are arguably not a Persian empire.
Yeah.
They're Greeks and they rule from Syria, but
Yeah.
they did
And
own
the entire
region.
Hellenistic era, yeah.
Yeah, Alexander's empire and all that.
I don't know. I think I would like to see it just entirely crash and burn, but I don't know how we would continue the podcast after that. So I'm curious to see what comes next. Like, all I can say is that for sure things are going to change a lot. So I would love to be surprised and find that actually someone is bringing a new era, like kickstarting whatever the empire is going to become next, instead of burning everything to the ground first. I love me some good surprises, you know? When someone is crowned as a kid and then suddenly they become the next great emperor for 40 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen often.
Well, I'll
but
tell you one thing. What's going to happen next,
will surprise you.
the big change comes from somewhere that you would not have expected if you were living at the time.
Ooh.
Like, if you were a Sassanid citizen living in Ctesiphon and Boran was just killed / help the succession, you would not expect what's going to happen next. You wouldn't say, oh yeah, of course, definitely. this is
Okay,
what's
so
happened.
is it
You would say, oh, what?
so is it
came out
the
of
Arab
nowhere.
people that have been doing raids that suddenly just sweep over and conquer the entire empire and now it's them? Or is it the Mongols? Because we haven't talked about them in a while. And they
We
tend
have not
to
yet talked about the Mongols, no.
they tend to just appear out of nowhere and just
Well, we'll find out next time. I'll
Ah,
leave you with this
we will,
doubt for
won't
now.
we?
And,
Painful.
listeners, whether you know or not, I hope you have fun with Yazdegerd III next time.
I guess don't tell
But
me.
now we need to rate Boran. So, Cyril, are you ready? Let's go.
Yes, let's do this.
Our first category is final moments. How interesting was her death? Either strangled to death by a rival group of nobles, or faded off into obscurity after helping the succession of her nephew, Yazdegerd.
It was not the most riveting death.
No, I thought, Azad Duct one's was a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
I think Boran is like,
This is so cruel
It's
to
fine.
say, but it is true. And these people
Hey,
have
listen,
been dead
Azad
for a long
Duct
time.
got horribly tortured and, not
Yeah.
horribly tortured, badly tortured,
Yeah.
and then died. But Boran, strangulation. So I'm thinking a 2-ish.
Yeah. I mean, it's
We kind of know the method.
not just, it's
and
not
it's-
just like fading into nothing, but I mean, it might be.
Yeah,
it's kind
it
of a
might have
rumor.
been, but that's one of the two options. But yeah, that's as far as we get.
I agree with it too.
Fair enough. So with a 2 and a 2, we get a 2 out of 10 for final moments. Our next category is battle hardness. How good was she at war and fighting?
Well, not at all, apparently.
Well, a little bit. There was, so in her name,
was-
of course.
Okay, well, she was not allowed to fight.
Well, true. No, exactly. She personally wasn't allowed to fight, but in her name, Rostam managed to win the Battle of the Bridge against the Arabs, and that was a great victory, and hooray, we've pushed back these raiders, and we've brought at least some stability to the
And
empire.
we'll never hear about them again.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
We'll find out.
Sure.
We'll just see next time if they're relevant at all, or if Mongols show up,
Good.
or if the Romans show up and do messy things. Who knows? We've not talked about India in a while either.
I think I've caught onto your ruse.
We'll see. But yeah, so winning one battle, it's against 10,000 Arabian raiders, and they get defeated. the empire is saved from harm. So what do you think that looks like? I'm floating around a 2-ish.
Yeah, that's a good
It's like
victory.
a nice
It's not
victory.
much.
It's not massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least, we're stabilizing the empire where it needs to be stabilized.
Sure. A
So,
2
yeah,
seems
I'm thinking
generous.
a 2.
Yeah.
You want to go for a 1 instead?
No, I think a 2 is fine. Just barely.
Okay. So, yeah, with a 2 and a 2, she gets a 4 out of 20 for battle hardness. Our next category is scheminess. How good was she at plots and manipulations?
I feel like she got manipulated.
Her second reign, absolutely nothing. She's just manipulated, no. Her first reign, while Photocormizd was the leader of the plot to murder Sharbaraz, do you want to consider that maybe Boran was in on the plot to murder Sharbaraz? Or do you think that, it doesn't feel like it's the thing she would have done? Oh no, she wasn't explicitly mentioned as being involved, but she came to the throne after Sharbaraz was killed, so...
She benefited, so maybe.
Yeah, does she strike you as the type who would have had him murdered, or do you think, she's not that type of person?
She's better than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not really consider it, but how did she get the throne?
Well, Photocormizd, who is incidentally the father of Rostam, who's now the Eternal Regent, just put her on the throne after he killed Sharbaraz and said, yep, you're in charge now.
So
we don't know why he chose her specifically, but...
I don't know, maybe... Because this could go either way. Either she considered that she would be malleable enough.
Yeah.
Or she helped him. And then, they both had this plan.
Mm-hmm. Does she strike you as somebody who would have had this plan or no? Because in my view, she feels...
I feel like she doesn't win that much,
Yeah, exactly. She feels not strong enough to actually do this.
It doesn't feel a very beneficial plan for her.
No, not really. Definitely not.
So
I wouldn't want to be crowned.
Yeah.
So, yeah, otherwise, scheminess, she may have been made some sort of regent for her nephew/son, Ardashir III, maybe. But we don't know. It's very murky. Honestly, she strikes me as a 0 here. I don't think I
don't think she played the mischief game.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so with a 0 and a 0, we get a 0 out of 20 for scheminess. Our next category is shock factor. How shocking was this woman? We have the usual thing. She's the first woman in 600 years to be in control of Iran. That's, novel and shocking.
Yep.
She married her brother. That's,
well,
kind of the custom,
as shocking.
But a bit shocking for us, I suppose. Yeah. And then, I don't know how shocking you want to put it, that she just basically gives up all her power to Rostam and says, yeah, just do whatever. Please,
it would be...
Fix everything.
It would be shocking if Asarmidov had done so.
Right.
Because she was much more...
Yeah, that would be totally out of character. Yes.
Yeah. But for her, this guy had all the weapons,
Yeah, yeah.
And he also kind of put her on the throne reasonable to do. Before.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's because she wanted to be on the throne. So I feel like she doesn't have that much agency, actually.
Okay, so you wouldn't put that as shock. It's basically as if Rostam had put himself on the throne and that was fine,
I would have also been like,
using her as a fig leaf to protect his power.
I don't want to die. And you're making it really difficult for me to live, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, shock factor, being a woman, marrying her brother, and giving up power, but not really. I'm honestly between a 1 and a 2, maybe. It's fine. It's nothing too riveting.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think just a 1.
Yep. That's what I was going to go for anyway.
Fine. So, with a 1 and a 1, she gets a 2 out of 20 for shock factor. Our next category is Erin's shine. How good was she for the Empire in general and Iran in particular? Well, she has 2 reigns, so let's sort of look at them separately. Well, first of all, in the first reign, she comes to the throne after usurpation, and she loses the throne to usurpation. That's not great.
Nope.
and she maybe gave away a bunch of land to the Romans,
Yeah.
making the whole Great War pointless.
Uh,
Like just restarting to the start of the war. Depends if you believe she did that or if you think, no, she feared the nobles more. She just consolidated peace with the Romans and that was all. So depending on your opinion there, those are different judgments of her reign. And then for her second reign, she gave up basically all royal power to Rostam. Rostam is king in all but name. So she is basically powerless. And yeah, she tries to consolidate things by building temples and all that.
She does the
but
diplomatic
it's not
missions,
doing
essentially.
much. Yeah, exactly. She is not exactly a constitutional monarch, but basically the power has been vested in her prime minister.
Yeah.
On the upside of her second reign, you could say that, well, a victory is won against the Arabs, things are stabilized there. And also the fact that Rostam is in charge and he has the only army means that, well, you're not going to have any massive rebellions, are you? You know, the guy with the one army is in charge, so maybe that's good. I mean, we mentioned last time with Azarmidokh that she would have done a good job to marry Rostam's father.
Yeah.
And just stabilize the empire.
I understand why she refused, but yes.
Yeah, Boran, against her will, she does the same thing. She doesn't marry Rostam because he doesn't need to do that.
He just asks
But
for the power.
the empire is
the power is
stabilized, yeah.
Or rather, the power has been taken, and then
Power has been taken, but Boran doesn't try anything to get it back. So, meh. So how would you consider that? Do you think the empire is... Well, first of all, let's start with the first reign. First reign, do you think she gave away all that land to the Romans? I personally don't. We said beforehand that we don't believe that, but...
No, I think I blame the nobles. Because, of course.
Yeah. So we've assumed that she's kept the empire at least territorially together in her first reign. In her second reign, then, do you think that things are better off for her abandoning all this power? Because royal power is a lot weaker now, but we might have stabilized things enough to get out of this crisis period. And, well, just because of the times involved, that between the beginning of Boran's reign and the end of the podcast, there are 19 years and 2 rulers. Yeah. So clearly, the empire is stabilized.
Yeah, something changed.
So things are stable now. The crisis period is over. But does that make up for the fact that the queen has no power whatsoever? She's just
good point,
smiling and waving at crowds. What do you think?
Basically, it's a is it worth it question, right?
Yeah. Do you think it's worth giving all power to this extremely powerful noble?
No.
But things are more stable? Or do you think it's just...
But I don't think she could have done anything different. It's just unfortunate.
Oh, no. I think very few people could have done anything.
I don't question her decision. I think it sucks.
Yeah, but we're judging the consequences of her decision, not so much
the morality or the
reasoning.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. But do you think that ultimately this is for the better or for the worst?
Well, sometimes we have had rulers where I look at their decisions and their choices and I'm like, why?
Oh, yeah, no, but this one is like, you understand why, but ultimately, was it a good decision? I'm inclined to say things are slightly better, mostly because, see, let's put it this way. I think it's not a 5. I think it's more of a 4, where it's like things are a little bit worse, but they could have gone a lot worse. And at least now the empire is stable enough to carry on.
I want to point out, things didn't go as badly as I thought they could go. Because we fought these battles, and so we're not really being attacked from all fronts. So, like, that's a great
that's right.
start.
She concluded peace with the Romans. Yeah. She consolidated peace there. We haven't heard much from the steppe. Who knows?
Yeah, and we also have all of this
Arabs, which is helpful.
Region in Yemen that we don't know what has happened.
Yeah, that bit of the empire is gone, but that's fine, I guess.
Worrisome, but I'll take it. Not as bad as it could be. Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, I think I'm going.
I think a 4 is fair.
Yeah, a 4. I appreciate that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, with a 4 and a 4, she gets an 8 out of 20 for Erin's shine, which is 2 points better than her sister.
Ooh, damn. Sister rivalry. I feel like Azarmidot's was definitely hard to be a sister to.
Yeah, I mean, in
I
all
feel like she's
sources,
a
Boran
bully.
is, she's so good and so pure, and she didn't
I
marry
see.
because she was so kind, and she gave so
Sure.
much power to the nobles, but that's not why we like her. It's okay. She's great.
Yeah, I see.
While Azarmidokht is evil and scheming, and she kills men with her
So I
seductive
have just
wiles.
fallen victim to
Yes,
noble propaganda.
you're falling for the sources.
I see.
Yes. Because the nobles write the sources, so, yeah, okay, fair enough. They like one and not the other. Understood.
Can't believe this would happen to me.
Yes. How dare you fall for the propaganda made to
Horrible.
make people fall for it. So our next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this woman looked like? And let me send you her crown.
Yay.
She has a special crown,
Mm.
which looks a bit like her father's, but she does her own thing.
Cool.
It's a very soft panettone-looking crown.
Oh, cute. Now I want panettone. Why would you do this to me? This is panettone to you? I mean, I guess.
This is like the doughy shape. It's very soft. Like the wings aren't panettone, but the rest is. Okay, so Sarah has finished their drawing. Let me pick it up and I'll describe it to you all. Oh dear. Yeah, fair.
Yep.
That's fair. So what we have here is Boran sitting on a throne. She sort of has a big robe with her sleeves one inside the other, hiding her hands. And she is looking downcast and sad with her crown, which looks a bit like her father's but is more domed. It has wings and a sphere on top of it. But she's looking very sad and dejected as to her side looms over her a great and dark shadow of Rostam, who is pulling her strings, and despite that did not manage to save her. So, very sad, and to be fair, it is a sad story for Boran. It doesn't
Yeah.
end well.
It doesn't necessarily have to
But,
be the moment
yeah.
of her death, of course. It's just she's been in the shadow of this man, regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, it's been tough. Even despite being a queen, she was a prisoner all that time. But yeah, so thank you, Sarah. That was very good.
Mhm.
And if any of you would like to see this great portrait, you can go to the episode notes in the description, on the Discord if you're a patron, or on our website in Sarah's portrait gallery. Now let me show Sarah what she actually looked like. And we have a coin. Hooray! This is the only
Oh.
gold coin that we have of her. And it's apparently been made into a pendant because it has a little thing holding onto it.
Oh,
So
cool.
here you go.
Oh, fun. It's a front-facing one for once, so that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is, however, like, I guess slightly eroded just from, like, you know, people touching the coin. And also, it's fairly stylized, so, you can see that, like, the person has no beard and that they have, like, long hair, but, like, most of our kings also have this sort of hair, so other than her having no beard and having this specific crown, yeah, looks like
Yeah, you wouldn't be
most other coins.
Yeah, I don't know why the face gives me a claymation vibe. It feels like I could see it animated.
I
But
think it's
yeah.
because of the nose and the lips being so, like, you know, in relief.
It might be, yeah.
Yeah, big eyes, big nose, big lips, big eyebrows, and then just the hair and the clothing and accessories, and the little stars next to the crown and the text on left and right. I like this front facing, you know, for a change.
It's quite nice. It's unusual, I suppose.
It's been a while.
Yeah, so how much does the front facing get her? How much would you rate this?
Also think it's cool that it's a gold coin and that it's been made into a pendant.
Yep.
But
that's neat.
overall, is not one of the more impressive things we've seen. I guess I would give it. What do I give coins usually? I fully forget what I do.
Well, you gave Azarmidokht's coin a 3. You gave Sharbaraz's coin, which is sad and square, a 1. Ardashir the Third's a 2. That seems to be
Yeah.
broadly what
I
you've
think I'll
gone with.
go with a 4 because this has been made into a piece of jewelry, and I think that's cool.
fair. That's quite neat.
If it were just a coin, it would get less. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm instead going to go for a 3, so we're flipping our score that we gave for Azad Mitocht. So me 3, you 4 instead of me 4 and you 3. Yeah, so with a 3 and a 4, she gets a 1.8 out of 5 for Face of Faces. Our next category is lengthiness. For how long do you think she reigned? And consider we're adding up her first and second reign.
3 years?
No, I'm sorry, Cyril, you're being too generous.
I was like, well, it's the 2 reigns, and, some stuff happened in between. But I guess...
No, unfortunately, she ruled about a year. In total, she ruled... Her first reign was from the 6th of June of 630 to sometime in mid-630, while her second reign was from sometime in 631 to June of 632. So, well, Cyril, that means that you now know how long Yazdegerd III rules, and it's 18 years.
Oh, interesting.
So,
that's much better.
We can see if that adjusts
so
any
I
of your
wonder
opinions.
why this is the end. I guess he starts something that does not fit into what we have so far. I guess.
I will give you a minor spoiler that there is still used to this day the Yazdegerd era.
Ooh,
Find
okay.
out what that means.
Interesting.
That is a calendar that people use.
Ooh. Okay.
Yep.
Damn.
So there we go. Take 1 year divided by 10 years, and we get a 0.1 out of 5 for lengthiness. Which brings us to the final score, which is a grand total of 17.9 out of 100, making her about 10 points lower than her sister, because of the lack of drama. And she is above Artabanus I, which, fair enough, and below Sogdianus of Ashru murder fame. So it's not the most prestigious place to be. It's in the, mildly notable, I guess. But that leads us to the final question, which is to ask, is she powerless enough? Is she almost final enough? Is she basically fixing the crisis enough to be a Shahanshah? Or is she just a Shahanna? I feel like if we didn't give it to her sister, she doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I feel like of the two, Azad Midocht is the more interesting.
I am of the same mind.
Because Boran is just like, she's a puppet. She's just
there,
carried. She's along for the ride.
Yes.
Azad Midocht, tries to rage against the dying of the light and murders people because
honestly,
she can,
I might go back on my word
power.
and give it to Azad Midocht when we review our things, because she was iconic. But that's just because I like the drama. Yeah, but Boran cannot get.
But we have a lot of other dramatic people, to be fair. So yeah.
Sure.
When we get to the draws, we'll see if any of us want to amend our choices. But I think, given the choice, we'll probably stay with it. But yeah. Sorry, Boran, you are a Shahan now. You can go off into the desert and meet your sister Azad Midocht and ask her, was it worth it? Should you maybe have married the guy? We both ended up dying in the end, so really, what was the point?
Yeah, devastating.
And that is the end of our episode. Thank you all for listening. We hope you had fun listening to Boran, the penultimate episode, and we hope you join us next time for Yazdegerd III at last. At long last, Serial. It's been so long. It's been years, literally years. How long has it been? It's been almost 4 years since I started my research and 3 years since we started releasing the podcast.
That's
which
incredible.
Is just like, that's a long while.
But no time. It's no time
made
for.
It to Yazdegerd.
Shush. No time for goodbyes yet.
So close. No, it's fine. We still have.
We
Yazdegerd,
can reminisce when we're actually done.
Fine. Exactly. Fair. So yes, we'll find out, Serial. What will Yazdegerd do with the 18 years that he has?
I'm so curious. I did not expect a major plot twist at the very end of the podcast. I honestly just thought it was gonna be kind of sad and depressing.
There is a big reason it ends, and I would also point out that, our friend of the show, Trevor from The History of Persia, also decides to put this at the ending where I do. Because it's not just me thinking this is a new change in period, this is where the Middle Ages starts.
Yes.
It's just like there is a radical enough change that we decide, no, Antiquity ends here, Middle Ages start now. And then we'll
that is so exciting. I can't wait for our next episode, actually. Oof.
So,
okay.
We'll all see. So everybody, please tune in. It'll be fun, if only just because it's the end. That'll be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in the meantime, if you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do so. You can support us on Patreon, like our new patron, Frank Moretti. So thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.
If you join our Patreon, we have a bunch of extra episodes that you can enjoy. You can also be consulted about a series of extra episodes that are going to be happening next. And for now, this month, we're going to be having one of our intelligent speech presentations from the past years, which will be fun. This is the one about Alexander the Great in mythology, so the Alexander romance from the Iranian point of view. That'll be cool. We had fun about it. There's a guy called Pillow Ears. What's his deal? I don't know. You'll find out. If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine. But we'd appreciate it if you could give us a review on your podcast app of choice. We just received 100,000 downloads, so that's really cool. Thank you all for that. Maybe, commemorate that by saying why you enjoy our podcast and why you've kept listening, because clearly you have, so tell us why. It's exciting.
Hey, seriously, we're just sitting here doing our little podcast being
tell
like,
us
people
why.
listen?
Our families are worried about us. What are you doing? Yes.
Give us something to brag about. No, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for downloading our podcast and listening to our podcast and being here. And I don't know, it's a really, in a way, lonely thing to do. It's just Umberto and I just talking to each other in our rooms. So it's very strange to then have our conversation, like have more people be part of the conversation. And we would just never know if you didn't, reach out and send us lovely, lovely messages like you sometimes do. So thanks for that. And I hope we brought you a lot of hours of entertainment and happiness in your life. Or, something close to that.
Very well said. And in that case, that is the end of our episode. We hope you have a lovely week, and we'll see you next time for the last episode. It's the last one, guys. We're almost there.
The one in the
title.
title.
Last one, everybody. Yay. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.